Punch had been acting differently since early morning. Usually, even on quiet days, there was still a little brightness in his eyes whenever he heard familiar footsteps or voices near the zoo paths. But today, from the very first light of sunrise, something felt wrong. Again and again, he stared toward the same pathway, waiting, listening, hoping. Around him, everything else continued normally. The other monkeys played together, groomed each other in the warm sunlight, and moved around peacefully. The keepers cleaned the area as usual, chatting softly while they worked. But Punch couldn't relax, because someone important wasn't there. Miyakoshi, the caregiver who had slowly become one of the biggest sources of comfort in Punch's life. At first, Punch tried to stay patient. He sat quietly beside the fence, clutching the small blanket he often carried whenever he felt nervous or lonely. Every few minutes, he suddenly lifted his head and looked toward the entrance, almost believing he had finally heard the familiar footsteps he had been waiting for. But every time, it wasn't him. Hour after hour passed, and the longer Miyakoshi didn't appear, the more anxious Punch became. Even his favorite snacks stayed untouched beside him. Once, he picked up a piece of fruit, stared at it silently for a moment, then slowly set it back down without taking a bite. His mind was somewhere else, still searching, still wondering. Why hasn't he come back yet? One of the keepers softly called Punch's name while placing fresh food nearby, but Punch barely reacted. Instead, he slowly walked back toward the gate and sat there once more, staring quietly into the distance. Some animals show sadness loudly. Others become completely silent. Punch became silent, and somehow that silence felt heartbreaking. As the afternoon breeze moved gently through the trees, visitors passing by began noticing the tiny monkey sitting alone near the entrance. "He looks worried today," one person whispered quietly. Another noticed how often Punch kept watching the staff pathway, almost like a child waiting for someone he loved to finally return home. Little by little, Punch became more tired, more quiet. Eventually he curled up beside the wooden post near the gate. But even then, he refused to stop looking toward the pathway. Every small sound made him react instantly. A step, voices, doors opening somewhere far away. Each time, his eyes filled with hope for just a second, before falling quiet again. Somewhere deep inside, an old fear had started returning. The fear of being left behind. Even though Punch had found safety and love after being rescued, his small heart still remembered what loneliness once felt like. And when someone important suddenly disappeared, even for a little while, that fear quietly came back. The fear that maybe they weren't returning at all. As evening slowly approached, golden sunlight spread softly across the enclosure. One of the older monkeys carefully came closer to Punch, almost as if trying to comfort him. But Punch barely noticed. His eyes stayed fixed on one direction, still waiting for Miyakoshi. Then suddenly, familiar voice, soft footsteps approaching nearby. Punch froze completely. His ears twitched first. Then his head lifted instantly. For one silent moment, he didn't move at all, almost like he was scared to believe it. And then he saw him. Miyakoshi had finally arrived. The reaction was immediate. Punch jumped to his feet so quickly that his blanket slipped onto the ground beside him. His eyes widened with overwhelming relief and emotion. And then he ran, as fast as his tiny legs could carry him, straight toward the fence where Miyakoshi stood waiting. The nearby caregivers smiled softly the moment they saw him sprinting over, because they understood immediately. Punch had been waiting the entire day. The second he reached the fence, he grabbed onto it tightly, letting out soft emotional cries while his whole body trembled with relief. Miyakoshi quickly knelt beside him. "I'm here now," he whispered gently. And the moment Punch heard those words, something inside him finally broke. His tiny hands reached desperately toward Miyakoshi while tears slowly formed in his eyes. Not loud sobbing, not dramatic crying, just quiet tears sliding down his face while his breathing shook softly. as if all the fear and loneliness he had carried throughout the day suddenly melted away at once. Miyakoshi gently touched his hand, and immediately, Punch pressed himself closer, almost desperately, like he needed to make absolutely sure Miyakoshi was really there and wasn't going to disappear again. The visitors nearby became emotional watching the reunion, because it didn't feel like an animal greeting a caregiver. It felt like a child finally finding safety again after being scared and alone for too long. Miyakoshi continued speaking softly to him. "You were waiting for me. You got worried, didn't you? It's okay now." And little by little, Punch finally started calming down. He slowly rested his head against the fence while tightly holding Miyakoshi's fingers, refusing to let go, as if letting go meant losing him again. Later, the keepers explained that Miyakoshi had simply been delayed unexpectedly that day. But Punch didn't understand schedules or delays. He only understood one thing: whether the people he loved were there or gone. And for a small heart that once knew abandonment too well, even a few missing hours could feel endless, especially when the person you trust most suddenly disappears. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the trees, Punch finally relaxed for the first time all day. His breathing became slower. The tension left his tiny face. His shoulders softened. Miyakoshi stayed close beside him, comforting him gently with quiet words and soft touches until Punch's sleepy eyes slowly began closing from emotional exhaustion. Eventually, Punch picked up his little blanket again and sat peacefully beside the fence near Miyakoshi, this time not with fear, not with anxiety, but with comfort, with safety. The remaining visitors watched quietly, unable to look away from the touching moment unfolding in front of them. One woman wiped tears from her eyes. Another softly whispered, "He really loves him." And honestly, it was true. The bond between Punch and Miyakoshi had become something incredibly deep, not because of one moment, but because of patience, consistency, the kind of gentle care that slowly teaches a frightened heart how to trust again. Punch quietly leaned beside the fence while Miyakoshi remained close. No more panic, no more searching, only relief, pure peaceful relief. And maybe that's what made the reunion so emotional. Because sometimes comfort isn't something loud or dramatic. Sometimes comfort is simply seeing the person you were terrified of losing finally come back. For Punch, that moment meant everything. And as night slowly covered the zoo and the lights around the enclosure began glowing softly in the darkness, Punch finally closed his eyes peacefully beside Miyakoshi, safe again, comforted again, and no longer feeling alone.